Gary from Nerdrotic talks about his Cal exit. We got Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings updates and more on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Good morning, YouTube. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. I am Tom Connors. With me is Andre the Boss Man. Morning, YouTube. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning.
Is that me?
Tom Connors. I think that's Andre.
Don't you just love live shows? Yeah, greetings.
Yes.
Oh my everyone. Good morning, Tom.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good.
I can hear myself saying good morning to myself.
Love live shows. Yeah, greetings.
Oh my everyone. Good morning. We're getting echo.
We're still getting massive echo.
Hang on, let me see if it's
not
mine.
me. No, it's not me.
Maybe it's Gary.
Good morning. We're getting echo.
We're still getting.
I think
Leave it to Gary to boomer it for the morning. Yeah. Welcome, Gary from Nerdrotic, the one, the only Gary. Good morning.
I think
Leave it to Gary to boomer it for the morning. I think we lost him. Are you still there, Gary? I think he's having sound issues. Well, Gary is with us when he comes back.
I do believe someone said something about this in the chat, that we had to give him like 30 minutes to to plug the microphone into the right USB or something. So yeah, but anyway, we'll be glad to have Gary with us the moment he plug the microphone into the right USB or something. So yeah, but anyway, we'll be glad to have Gary with us the moment. Yeah, so see, Gary was back again for a moment there with audio issues not quite solved just yet.
Which is strange because everything was working fine just before we started. So
yeah, it's funny that. Well, of course, that would be because then we hadn't started broadcasting, and if you had like a window open with the live show, then that would explain it, wouldn't it?
Yes, but while he's working on that, just saying good morning to everybody. We already got a super sticker from the Jack of All Casuals, a good member of the channel, or friend of the channel. He says, "Keep it up with a pair." Thank you so much, and we'll do our best to keep it up.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
We also got another one right away from Terminus EST, or however you want. I think he wants you to say his name, probably.
Yeah, put it up on screen, and I will.
Let's see if I can find it here. Where'd it go? I thought I saw one from Terminus. I guess it was Corey B. My bad.
Corey B. Then I can say that Corey B. sent us a super sticker for $1.99. Thank you so much. And we have many others in the chat joining us. We have Bubba Doom, and we have his attention. That's awesome. And Rich T asks, when are you going to have Doomcock so we can call it Midnight Cock? Yeah, before you know it, probably.
I've been trying. Getting him up this early in the morning, though, I guess is a little difficult in the center of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. There's a really bad reception going on all that way. And 200 watt studios, don't you mean 200 gigawatts? But anyway, he asks, what's up, bronies? Yeah,
I don't know if there's any bronies here this morning. Are you much of a My Little Pony fan?
Not as such, no. But I'm sure that there are some closeted ones out here. And if there are, there's nothing wrong with that. At least that's what we say in public.
I think I can speak for Gary when I say I don't think he is. So, yes, Gary's out of internet gas this morning. We're working on that. He'll be with us shortly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me, Gary, but if you got to back out and come back in, do what you got to do. So, but otherwise, in the meantime, how was your weekend, Andre? We'll take a moment and discuss that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my weekend was it was fine. It was a normal weekend. Didn't get so much done because that's like when the kindergartens are out and everything. So that's like mostly family time. So my weekend was pretty calm. I did one thing though. I was able to finish watching The Haunting of Hill House, because I'd actually watched The Haunting of Bly Manor first, but now I was able to watch season 1, which was Hill House. There was that. So I saw them in the wrong order. But that's one thing I did. So that was fairly cool, I guess. Don't get too much watch too much these days, but then I got both seasons in of that, and that was kind of like the biggest thing to happen this weekend. That and planning some more videos and interviews coming in for the next week and everything. So yeah, pretty awesome. How about yourself? How was your weekend?
Well, I tried to get some things cleaned up and moved. I sent you a picture to show you the progress I was making, what little. Outside of that, and just trying to play catch up around here mostly. That was about it. Did I watch anything? Oh yeah, Mandalorian. That was about it. That's all I had time to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's so fun though with the Mandalorian. I have to say I love the reactions to it, because like you have like some people like myself that are really really into it, whereas others find it so meh. And then you have like these little things that should be harmless that some people are able to create controversy about, like Boobgate, which we'll get back into later.
Yeah, last week it was Eggate, now it's Boobgate.
Exactly.
We might talk a little bit about that, like you said, but we hope to talk to Gary a little bit about his Cal exit here when we get him when his internet gas gets filled up here. And other than that, we may actually have a few updates for you guys you may not know anything about yet when we get to Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. So
indeed,
so,
we often know more than we let on. And this would be one of those cases where, well, if not, maybe not no, but we certainly have like some indications of more than we let on. Until then, though, Tonister Tree sent us a $5 super chat saying, "You guys are a good contrast. Very entertaining and informative. Thanks for what you do." Well, thank you.
That's just
and
because
thanks
he's
for
dead
watching.
inside and I'm too boisterous.
Exactly. There you go. So you have like boisterous versus dead inside. And Crazy Cat Guy, they do exist, says, "Good morning. Looking forward to the stream once we are done. Waiting for Nerdrotic. LOL. Someone really has to put on that t-shirt."
You hear that, Gary? There's a t-shirt for you.
Yeah, there's a t-shirt for you. Absolutely. And in the meantime, also, I would like to say thanks to everyone who is watching. If you just joined us in the last 10 seconds, Gary will be with us soon as he fills up some more internet gas. And in the meantime, please make sure that you are still subscribed, because this platform has this tendency to randomly unsubscribe people. Typically just about as many as newly subscribe anyway. That's about how many people are going to get unsubscribed on a given day. Funny how that works. So do check that you are still subscribed and all of that jazz. Make sure you get notifications and everything,
right.
So that you have done what you can in your end, and then we can only hope that the platform does what it's supposed to in its end. What do you say, Tom?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, you may not get a alert this afternoon, but after this show, probably about an hour or so after we're done, 1 Central, we're going to be talking to director Adam Marcus, who did Jason Goes to Hell, and he's got a new movie and documentary coming out. We're going to talk to him live. So if you guys want to hang out with us to talk to him, we hope to see you there. We're talking all about his new documentary, which is about the making of Jason Goes to Hell and all the controversies and all that good stuff. So we hope to see you then. So that'll be about 1 p.m. Central. I'll throw the link again in the... Oh, there he goes. He's back out, and hopefully he'll come back in and we'll be able to hear him. Here's the link though for that if you guys want to park up for that later, since you probably will not get an alert. So yeah, hopefully Gary will be back here momentarily. And I'm glad you liked the movie, Ego. Hopefully we'll see you there this afternoon. So yeah, we're going to try not to make it all negative and stuff, because that's what the documentary is about all the questions and things that went wrong and all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll get a few insights from him, and otherwise we'll just have a good time talking to them about that. But speaking of that, we're going to have a good time this morning. When Gary gets back here, we're going to talk a little bit about his Cal exit. We've got some other news for you when it comes to HBO Max that I think we're going to talk a little bit about, but I don't know how much we're going to get into, because I think we got a video planned for that, don't we, Andre?
Yeah, we do. Cannot promise exactly when it's gonna drop, but we have a video plan. But there's plenty other stuff to talk about. Since we have Gary here, then we're gonna talk a little bit about the stuff that's close to his heart. Not just Cal Exit, not just Lord of the Rings, but also Game of Thrones. And maybe some Doctor Who, the kind of stuff that you all care a little bit about, but that we don't always cover. So it's going to be great to get some of his insights into that. We can also talk about how we have a real world specter in the guise of bad robot that gets its nasty little tentacles in on absolutely everything. On that note, Hoovy's Garage asks, has Disney/CBS hacked Gary's microphone? Big fans of both, great crossover. Well, let's hope they didn't get to him, but I think he's fine. He just needs to refuel some internet juice and sort up some unopened browsers and stuff. Hopefully he'll be with us momentarily.
Indeed. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about. What do you want to start with, Andre? While we're waiting for Gary here, did you want to talk about Boobgate a little bit?
Yeah, Boobgate. How amusing is that? Because you know what's a little bit fun? Because now for 2 consecutive weeks, we have had controversies related to the Mandalorian. For last week, it was like the frog egg lady, or the eggs of the frog. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Like the baby Yoda eating the eggs. And this week, it was even more ridiculous in the controversy over Boobgate, because Lord knows we can't sexualize women by giving them body armor that actually freaking fits.
Well, let's be clear here. The only one who was really sexualizing them was Anita. She was the one who brought it up. Nobody else did.
Wasn't she able to find some way to say that this is some kind of gatekeeping or something? Or was that what her protest boiled down to?
I lost the whole argument to begin with, as far as not lost like I was arguing with her, but I lost the beginning of it. All I know is that Anna, that Star Wars girl, got involved, and quite a few other people got involved, and it just went ape shit crazy. It's just been back and forth bullshit, and it's nuts. But I think the basics boil down to how, just like with Comicsgate, it's okay to have, men for women to ogle over, all kinds of non-binary and gay characters, but God forbid a woman actually looks like a woman. You know what I mean? I think that's their main thing. And then she just had to make a big deal out of the fact that the armor had it was boob-shaped armor. That was her big thing, from what I gathered. So it's just really, we're going to that extent.
It should have been so completely flat and really uncomfortable for Katie Sackhoff and that other one to wear. That was what she would have preferred.
Evidently, that's what they expect. Yes.
That's oh yeah, exactly. On that, before we get to the super chats, Will Bloom says gender is a social construct, therefore boobs do not really exist. Yeah, I can only imagine that must be part of what she's protesting. But then let's get to a couple of super chats. Stargate 404 says, since it looks like Hollywood may be stalled for the near future, would you consider doing retro roundtables? I'd like to hear you guys talk about Rashomon.
I think that's something we've discussed. Welcome back, Gary.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my soundboard decided to update.
Oh, that was lovely. Everything was looking fine, and then boom.
Sorry about that. Yeah, right.
No, that happens, man. That happens.
Yeah. But just to address the super chat real quick, retro roundtables. Yeah, look for our James Bond videos coming really, really soon. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But with that though, Gary, now that we have you here, how's it going?
Oh, it's great now that I can hear just one of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool for a while, but I gave that stuff up in the 80s. So
yeah, okay.
and Birdie Eve says this is the first time Nerdrotic has been late. Actually, Gary was here on time.
He was here on time.
It was just
a soundboard that wasn't.
Yeah, the internet gas ran out.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of ran out, how's leaving LA? Or rather, how's leaving San Francisco?
It's going. I mean, I'm glad we got out of there as quick as we did. And as each day passes, we're reaffirmed in our decision, especially as things start to lock down again here in California. And we're expected to go on full lockdown soon, following Michigan and everyone else. And yeah, so where I am now is a better situation. It's not the best, but it's better. But it's going smooth as it can for a last minute decision with all the stuff that's going on. But yeah, I'm happy I did it. I can't wait to get out. And I don't know if it's going to be Texas or Utah, or we'll find out soon. I'm going to be taking off after Vegas for a couple days, checking out a couple places.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. We actually had a question for you from Evan Gerhardt that says, when Gary gets back, ask him when the Picard review is coming out. I think he's been spending too much time with Mauler. He's running off on him.
I think he means rubbing off, but yeah.
Well, I mean, am I rubbing on Mauler? No. But
no, I think he means Mauler's rubbing off on you. But yeah.
Yes, it's not a review I've done before. So this is something new, and I've trashed about 6 or 7 of them because I think, I want to do something different that nobody else has done, and it's just going to be, I'm going to pick out every little thing that I hate about every minute of that show. So it's going to be insanely long. That's about it. But I'm playing with my food on this one because I needed to figure out why I disliked it more than I disliked Star Trek Discovery, and I know why. You figure it out in 2 episodes. There's agenda in every single scene, everything. You can pick out like where the agenda came first before the storytelling, and it became a platform. And what made it even worse, and Doomcock and I were discussing this last night, was Sir Patrick Stewart being behind this, being the one who really was the motivation behind the story, the anti-Brexit story, the immigration stuff, and all the stuff that didn't fit, because they tried to fit in so much into so little, and then throw member berries to make it feel like, oh, it's Picard, when it wasn't. I mean, he doesn't act like Picard at all at any point in the show. And that ending is probably one of the dumbest endings in television.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I did my own retrospective on that, and what a terrible, terrible show in every single regard. And I would say that it's so bad that it actually retroactively destroyed my desire to rewatch Next Gen. I mean, honestly, like I've always loved Next Generation. And I always thought that no matter what happens next, nothing can soil my love of that. But that series actually might have done it.
It really did. And watching it again is painful. And this is like my 5th go around. So I feel like I know it. I feel like I know it through and through, but it'll be done someday. And then I'm going to have to review something I like right after that, because this is the point I set out to do this, and I'm going to finish it. But there's been moments where I don't even want to finish this. God, I hate this thing so much.
I don't even think they wanted to finish it when they were making
it. No, it's clear with all of Alex Kurtzman's productions that they changed direction mid-season. We
got confirmation that they reshot the last episode, at least, if not more, because Captain Hubris was supposed to be the one there instead of Riker. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah. And so they have to be test screening, because I doubt they're very good judges of what they're shooting, considering what they write. So I believe there's a lot of that stuff. How much, I don't know, but all I know is it sucks. And whatever rumors are out there, whatever, I mean, they can, announce all the seasons they want for Star Trek Discovery. It's complete garbage that they're just running with because they want to extend brand, and they don't really care what we think. They'll give us lip service, but they don't care.
Yeah, there's plenty of lip service in Picard, but certainly completely and utterly void of any kind of meaning. So it just fell flat. And as I said, to me, it just made it more difficult to separate Picard from the Next Generation, even though I know that they're made under two different contracts. But still, they were close enough that one definitely soils the other, which is unfortunate. But if you do finish that thing, then that is going to be something that George R.R. Martin is not going to do with his Game of Thrones books, or rather Songs of Ice and Fire, which I believe is the name of the series. I know that you have been following that situation much more closely than we have. What's your take on that? When can we expect, what's the next one called, like the Song of Winter and then the Dream of Spring or something?
And a Dream for Spring. So the Dream for Spring.
Yeah, there you see how interested I am. But that's what we are here.
So I mean, quick background, if people aren't familiar with my channel, is like I obsessed over the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Once I got into it, once I get into something, I do obsess over it. I read it. I read all 5 books multiple times over the course of one summer. And it had to do with, I really hated my job and I just needed something to escape into. And it was great. And I went over every Reddit theory. I just listened to everybody's channels, everybody's theories, right? I mean, hundreds of channels, hundreds of theories. When I get into something, I really get into something, and I loved it. I loved everything about this. I'm like, oh, this could be better than Lord of the Rings. Boy, was I naive and dumb. And then, of course, as the show progressed, we started to see, we had hope at first. It looked like it was going to come out in 2015, and something happened, and we'll find out someday. Probably not from George, but something happened around 2015. He wrote this ominous post on his, not a blog, that I'm not finished with Winds of Winter, and the show just derailed after that. Like everything derailed, and I believe there was some kind of falling out between Dan and Dave and George at that, and then George, slowly stopped going to cons, because he was going to cons and enjoying life. Because I mean, I forgave him at first. I was a George defender at first, because this guy got like really big late in his life, and he's a huge nerd, and he wanted to enjoy some of it. So I'm like, all right, I'll be patient. 5-6 years, no problem. I can wait that long. But we're rolling on 10. And based on a blog post earlier in the year, he's only halfway through the book. So he's had 10 years, and he stopped a couple of times, maybe more than once, to write other books. And at that point, you're disrespecting the fan. You're just flat out disrespecting your fans. And he needs to be honest at this point. It's clear that he doesn't want to finish it. He's not interested in it anymore. It's more obligatory. He's still being a professional. He still wants to get it right. But I don't know if we'll see a Winds of Winter. And I don't want George to die. I don't think he's going to die anytime soon, although you never know. I hope he lives to 1,000, because that's what it's going to take to get to the end of these books. But I think more and more people are disinterested. And after the disaster of that show, I mean, it was an opportune time to make your fans feel better by coming out with, which isn't the last book, the 5th book. And at his writing pace, there's no way this story is going to finish. So there's a lot of Song of Ice and Fire fans out there who are just like, I mean, do I want to even pick up the next book? Like, should I? I mean, I was asked that question last night, and I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, we're here. Part of the rumors we heard that went along with some of the Bond news was that HBO is really pissed at him right now.
Yeah.
Like, they're super pissed. Like, all these spin-offs that were supposed to happen, I guess they've all been derailed.
Apart from one, which is filming, I believe, the one from Ryan Condal. That was like his make good project after Conan blew up at Amazon. Then he has like this other spin-off series, this Targaryen prequel, which I do believe is in whole or in part inspired by one of the books that derailed the next episode there, wasn't it?
Yep, exactly. So Fire and Blood is just a history book, so it's not difficult for him to write, but he's done 2 history books, and the first one apparently he didn't write, he just edited. But this one he wrote. Like, he stopped writing Winds of Winter, went off to his cabin, and spent a year and a half, maybe 2, on this book. And he said, well, it was fast. Well, I mean, George, if we find this shit out, and this crap that George isn't your bitch, and he doesn't owe anything to the fans. Yeah, he does. If you say I have a 7-book series, and you purchase these 5 books, and you spent the time reading and making him a multi-millionaire, he does have an obligation. He's not your slave or anything, but he has an obligation to finish the book and maybe prioritize that over other things while still enjoying his life. I think we've all been pretty reasonable about it. But at this point, he's just finding excuses, and we all have things that happen in our lives that derail our creativity. But you know what? We motor on, because that's what life is about. And I just think George has been a sci-fi writer all his life. He's never, he watched his dad work on the docks, but he's never really worked a 9-to-5. Had to, he's never, he was poor for a long time. You'd think you would know, but I think he's just been in the lap of luxury for a long time now, and he just doesn't want to finish. That's a fact.
So it's like tantric book writing. Is that what you're saying? Or
yeah. Well, the way he writes as a gardener, right?
Yeah.
He's a gardener.
Well, no, it's you would think not just beyond the whole, he's not our slave thing, like you're just saying, which you're right. I mean, that's, a very fair and obvious thing to say, but you would think that the last thing he would want to do is leave that fucking show as the end of his legacy of that fucking story. I would think that the first thing he would have wanted to do after that thing bombed was like, fuck, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to finish this thing and show him the way I really wanted it to be done. And so everybody be like, oh my God, if they would have just finished the show the way the books ended. You know what I mean?
I can kind of see why he wouldn't, though, because I'm just guessing here. And the Nerdrotic, if you know something that I don't, Gary, then feel free to jump in, correct me. But my guessing is that from interviews that we saw around at the time of the airing of the finale, when he was in interviews that saying that they wanted to finish at this point. I said you needed another season or 2, but they wanted to finish. So I don't know, he seemed genuinely hurt and heartbroken over it. And we know that HBO, they were like, you can have more seasons. Just have as many as you want. It was D&D that were hell bent on nope, 5 more episodes and then we're done. And I can kind of see that then you have some other people that are ruining his life work to the masses. He knows that he's only halfway done with The Winds of Winter. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, and he knows that he's written himself into a corner. He probably doesn't know quite what to do or how to get out of it. He knows that it's probably going to be another couple of years before he finishes that thing, and then he still has the dream of spring to look forward to at the time when maybe no one cares anymore. And how old is he? He must know himself that, okay, I'm rich. I have only so many days left, and I have this much money to enjoy my days. How many of those days do I want to sit on my ass writing when I could be doing all these other things, enjoying all the money I've accumulated? I think that that's a genuine concern and a cost-benefit analysis that he does every single day. I can only imagine that must be going through his mind. And yeah, we've heard that HBO are angry at Martin, but really I think they should be angry at D&D, because if anything, it was they that completely and utterly tanked the ending of the series. And to harken back to what I said before about me losing interest in the next generation because of how bad Picard was, what I wonder is how many people that were fans of the books lost interest in those because of how bad the series ended. Do you have any thoughts on all of that, Gary?
Yeah, I think there was an influx of people who were hungry for a decent ending, and just to start out, the show ends literally how George would end it. I've said that before. The Bran will end up king, Daenerys will be dead, Jon will get screwed over in some way. Probably not the way they did it in the show, but that's pretty much his ending, but it's the how they get there that they just absolutely rushed to. And the end of Littlefinger in the season before was ridiculously bad. And it was just a disservice to characters to rush out of there so Dan and Dave could get on the next thing. And what they should have done is stayed on as executive or producer, brought in a Ryan Condell or somebody who was more hungry around season 5 to really try to adapt and maybe try to mend the fences with George. And yeah, they had 5 prequels or spin-offs, what they called them, planned, and they all got, sent to the crapper, I'll just say, right after season 8. And the only reason they came out with House of the Dragon is because they got Ryan Condell and Miguel Sapochnik, 2 like really competent showrunners, to do which probably will be a decent series, but I don't care. It takes place in a world where I just don't care. And the books would have helped people care about that. And so what you're going to have is hangers on, but you're never going to have what HBO needs and what they planned HBO Max around this. They wanted Game of Thrones level ratings, 10 million people watching a live episode on cable television is insane. And it was 18 million in the final episode after things had gone to trash. So, absolutely. Yeah, they HBO and Warner was probably devastated at this whole thing, and you can blame George and Dan and Dave. But yeah, as far as George, enjoying life, he's 72.
Right.
So he hit it big when he was 60, 62?
I think he's done it. Well, he's been doing this for quite a few years. He's been doing this since the
but he's
80s,
never been like multiple. Like he wasn't able to buy, he paid for Meow Wolf, bought a theater that's got a bookstore in it. He bought a choo-choo train. I mean, a big train, like a real one. And, that's great. Just finish your damn book. Quit editing wild cards. Quit, writing about the damn Jets every day. Nobody cares. And then, in his last post, he comes out and says, I think you guys come here just to find out about Westeros. Yes, we do. I mean, it's great. You can write about the Jets just as long as you only have a finite amount of creativity in you. And every word wasted on a blog is one that could be put into Winds of Winter, and it would have been done years ago. But I think there's also his peers. I think that's one of the big things that nobody ever talks about in the access media, and that's why people come to channels like ours, because we'll talk about this stuff. I covered the Hugo Awards and how he almost got canceled for mispronouncing names and bringing up a couple of authors who are on some SJW blacklist, right? So, and his own friends turned on him. So imagine like you're writing a Song of Ice and Fire, which takes place in this, he borrows from historical events, and it's a feudalistic society. So there are, women are not treated well at all. And if you want to be realistic about it, and he's done the best job possible, because if you take a look at who you're following in the story right now, it's mostly women. It's a crippled kid. It's a little person. It's not your traditional heroes, and people are still into this story, but he's still going to get criticized. The first time somebody gets slapped, first time, a woman dies in a horrible way. Nowadays, remember the last book was written in 2011. So it's a different world right now. And maybe he feels that. Maybe he's got his peers echoing in his head, and it's just making it take longer and longer. And maybe at this point he's just like, oh, I'll do what Tolkien did with the unfinished tales in the Silmarillion and just write it for the rest of my life and never finish it. And maybe somebody else can throw it in a book with some notes later.
Yeah, that's like the thing. We'll see what happens. But I have to say, I'm not optimistic about either of the 2 remaining books being completed, like ever, and especially not the Dream of Spring. I think that's probably going to remain a dream. But we'll see. Maybe he'll prove us wrong.
Right.
But I think you're probably right.
I want to jump back real quick to something you said about, the fact that the Game of Thrones spinoffs were supposed to be the big thing to push HBO Max. And since they don't have all these spinoffs that they were promised, what they are doing is, at least rumored to be doing anyway, from what we've been getting from our sources, is they've been having a lot of high-level secret meetings. One of those things on the table is No Time to Die with MGM. Another thing on the table with MGM, and this is the first place you'll hear it, folks, because we weren't able to confirm it before, but yes, they are in talks to do something with Stargate. Now, the issue is one of the companies behind Stargate wants to film in Canada, and I guess that's something HBO doesn't want to do necessarily, but I'm sure they're going to come to some kind of conclusion because HBO needs some shit between now and the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, they really do. And that's Snyder Cut can thank, in a way, the failure of Game of Thrones, on top of many other things for that happening.
Yeah, this is true. They wouldn't need the Snyder Cut if they had Game of Thrones still going strong. It's because they're so desperate for content that we're getting the Snyder Cut in the first place.
Yeah, and MGM is just desperate to make some money, so I'm sure they're willing to make whatever deals they can right now. And Stargate is one of the few properties that they do have under their belts, that they do have a lot to do with, because as far as Bond goes, they don't own the IP. All they have is distribution. Bill and Ted, same thing. RoboCop they own, but they haven't been able to get shit off the ground since the remake. They've screwed up the Neil Blomkamp sequel. And MGM really has nothing else. That's it. I'm trying to think beside, I can't think of any other major property that they really have under their belt. I'm sure there's one or two I'm forgetting, but obviously they're not big enough to remember right now. So I think this is a win-win for both teams on that part.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think MG. How much did you say they were losing on the movie? Was it per week or per day?
Like every month they're losing $1 million just in interest alone.
Ooh, that's bad.
Every single, and that's not just them. That's everyone across the board. Everyone that has a blockbuster movie that is waiting for release are losing at least $1 million for each and every single month that it is not released after it was supposed to have been released. And the lenders, they don't care about any kind of force majeure or something. They want their money back, or at least as much as they possibly can get back. There's always like some level of risk there, but when you have like a finished product, at some point it has to be released because they can't afford not to. So it's a matter of time.
It is, and pay attention to Hollywood and Disney, because I mean, especially Disney, maybe up until recently, they have an inside track to California politics, and we saw a lot of the films being delayed till early 2021. So I think the word on the street was, maybe these things will end around March of next year. But now it seems like it's going to get pushed back. So pay attention to, is Wonder Woman coming out on streaming or not? Are they going to do a VOD?
I'm starting to think they're leaning towards it, because here's the thing. A lot of their license deals have already gone by. We've seen the Doritos bags and all that shit. Dairy Queen had their run with their stuff. So I'm thinking what's going to end up happening, and this is the rumor, is they're going to drop Wonder Woman before too long. I really do think so.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think that they can hold it for very much longer. If there's going to be anything in theaters, it's going to be super, super limited, and then it's going to go straight to HBO Max.
I think, they'll use it to push HBO Max, I think, is the plan.
Yeah, that's... I would honestly be surprised if that didn't happen. I think that's going to happen across the board to everything. Like, honestly, I don't think that we'll ever be seeing Black Widow in theaters. I think that Disney's new model is going straight to consumer. They know that they're going to take a bloodbath on the things that are currently in development. But as long as they can get through it, and at least they can use it to promote Disney Plus, then it'll be money well spent. So I think that even Black Widow, a movie that I don't see anyone caring too much about, I certainly don't, it's going to go straight to Disney Plus before you know it as well. I don't think that'll ever be in theaters.
Sander does bring up a good point here. Do you guys think they might be waiting for a bailout now?
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reason why they were all so determined to get Biden. Like, you notice the entire industry were behind Biden. Why do you think that is? That's because he's the bailout candidate. You know, from past history, back in 2008, when you had the world of finance, and I speak of someone that was there because I come from the world of finance. The people that run the world down the drain, they needed to be put in jail. but instead they got bailouts. And you have one half of that administration now presumably going into the White House again. That's why Wall Street is so keen on getting that guy in. Same with Hollywood. They want their bailouts from your taxpayer money, no less.
And they will get it. It is guaranteed at this point if things play out the way they're going to play out. This isn't good for anybody, but bailout money might not be worth a whole lot when it finally happens. We'll see. But yeah, the little guy gets screwed left and right.
Well, and Gary, I got to say this is something that affects you personally, because, I mean, you've brought this up in, I believe, your Cal Exit video, along with many other occasions, how you would be furious if you saw Hollywood get a bailout, especially considering, you know, your wife just lost her business in San Francisco of, what was it, almost 20 years?
Yep.
So, like, I mean, that's just insane that, you know, normal everyday people are suffering, yet, you know, Hollywood thinks they're just going to get a fucking handout.
Yeah, and they'll get it now. And this is on top of, Amazon, doubling their worth. I mean, they're $1 trillion company now, and Amazon and Netflix are going to be running Hollywood shortly. You guys cover that more than I do. And yeah, it's seeing that just, it makes you angry, and it shows me how powerless we are over the system and over the narrative, and the importance of continuing to fight it, because if we don't say anything, they'll keep steamrolling us. Do we feel a little steamrolled? My wife and I, yeah, we do. And we're grateful we had the YouTube thing going on. It was never, ever, ever meant to be something where I pay all my bills with. And, she's still working, but this is something she worked for her entire life, and it's gone in a puff of smoke, and it's still hard. It's a bitter pill to swallow. It really is. And I imagine there's thousands, and I know there's thousands of my fellow San Franciscans who have lost businesses to the tune of 1,200. LA, it's even worse. Here in San Diego, it's bad too. We're going to get another round of it. And then to watch these billion-dollar corporations get a freaking handout with our money. I don't think any of us should be silent about that. I think that could probably be a uniting issue come next election day, but we'll that remains to be seen. I would hope we make everybody pay for that one. If the $1 billion corporations come out looking great and small businesses decimated, none of us should forget that.
Oh, I can guarantee you that's exactly what's going to happen. Like your economy that's finished now. It's not coming back ever. And the small businesses, they're done for, because all of the policies that the outgoing president installed to ensure that businesses would come back and stay in the States, they're getting reversed like no time flat. So yeah.
When you see, our governor here, his big save was to give people tax cuts who are still in business. Like nothing for basically what they're waiting for is more federal funds, and we can't keep waiting for federal funds, and particularly when it comes to Hollywood, to focus on that. Let's when you talk about essential, make believe and pretend are not essential. Sorry to everybody in that industry. That industry is a product of a very well-off, affluent society, and we need to start prioritizing real things, real people, food, the production. We need to make sure the trucks are still running. People are still getting, there's the supply line doesn't get cut. Like, these are things we need to start actually worrying about now, and we don't need to worry about little pretend movies. Sorry, and I cover that, and that's my thing. But it's not that essential, and we're way past the point of that being even considered. It is important.
Right.
Escapism is important during these times, and Hollywood has survived the Depression, and it served its purpose back then, but it was a different Hollywood. It was a different time, and this is a completely different situation, especially when Hollywood, in my opinion, really helped divide this country.
Yeah,
they played their huge part in it, and
absolutely.
They're starting to that now, a little late.
I would say that again, this is just my perspective as an outsider. It doesn't like mean so much to me, but but maybe again it does, because I'm speaking from outside. Because in my country, we have kind of like a joint culture that's the glue of society. We have our history, we have our mythology, we all have the Norse mythology, all of that stuff, right? Whereas in the States, which is historically speaking a relatively new nation, and it's even comprised of 50 different states with some major cultural differences between them. And what you have, instead of like the ancient mythologies and stuff like that, you have your modern day mythologies. You have your superheroes, you have your Superman, you have your Lord of the Rings, you have your Star Wars. What those things, from my point of view, that's your mythology. That's the glue that binds the nation and people together across otherwise the dividing party lines and other cultural lines. But you have that thing, which is the part of the glue that binds society together. When you make that toxic and you make that divisive, then that's a part of the glue that keeps society together that is unraveled. No good can come from that. And that's just my perspective as an outsider.
Well, speaking of unraveling glue, let's move on to Lord of the Rings after we hit these super chats here, because I know people are probably dying to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to go through some super chats real first. The next one that we got to was from, let's see here, Bertie Eve says, "This is the first time Nerdrotic has been late," referring to an earlier
I think we got that one, but yeah.
And Coraon Witch in Resistance, no, sorry, Coraon Witch in Residence says, "Have studied armor. Technically, in a sword fight, boob armor would be bad angles, but in a ranged fight, extra angles and slopes are good." Obviously referring to Boobgate, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually. And Detrius says, "I hate Funko Pops, but I had to buy Baby Yoda with egg canister just for the saltiness. Love you guys." So I thank you. We love you too, every last one of you. And Finbar Hooley says, "After this stream, see Shadiversity. He completely demolished the anti-boob armor arguments. Give the Mandalorians cod pieces and let Twitter explode." And Vapor Trail sent us 250 Philippine currency, don't know exactly which one, but thank you anyway. And he says, "Shout out to Drunk 3PO. Gary, sorry for your loss. Less boob armor."
Got a shout out for Drunk 3PO there. And yeah, sorry for your family's loss, Gary. And yeah, boob armor.
And thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, boobs.
Boobs. I think that's the first time I've ever heard Andre say boobs.
That's the first time for everything.
And I gotta say, I think I've Shadiversity. I think I'm familiar with them. So yeah, I think check them out. Yeah.
No, he's really good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of him before. So yeah.
And Manowars 665, neighbor of something I can't see on the screen here, but neighbor of something.
The beast.
That's the one. Says, "Having just finished my rewatch of TNG, my enjoyment of it wasn't impacted in any way, as I will not watch Discard." Oh, well, good for you.
Good.
And Stargate 404 says, "Now we just got to get Gary into Warhammer 40k." Mr. Tampon for €10, thank you so much.
Interesting name.
"Since you guys cover real-world politics being inserted into movies and TV shows, is there a specific reason you guys ignored The Witcher? It's more subtle, but it's there. Also, I fear for the new Lord of the Rings." Yeah, we'll get into Lord of the Rings in a second.
As far as Witcher goes, Andre can say his piece. I know I just haven't had the time to be able to get into it. I don't know about you, Andre.
Honestly, I'm not too familiar with the source material. I was at some point considering trying to get into it and cover it, but I simply didn't have the time to do research and try to get into what to me seems like a Polish Elric ripoff. I get it's probably awesome and stuff like that, but I just wasn't motivated to do the sufficient research to be able to do it justice.
I'm not
And if I
familiar with the
can't do it
games either,
justice,
yeah.
if I can't do it justice, I'm not going to cover it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the games and books, so and we also have fellow YouTubers who do such a great job already covering it. So
Exactly. I'm not going to go chasing something just because it's there. It has to be something where I feel that we have something that we can contribute. And if we haven't, we're simply not going to cover it. Same with the She-Ra, for instance. There's much to say about that, but again, as I said, it's not for me, and I left it at that. And Mr.
Sounds like Gary wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, I brought it up. I thought the good outweighed the bad, but my knowledge of the lore is just a couple of books, and I felt it was in the books too. Personally, I think it was there already, and they just extrapolated on it. But listen, you're not wrong. I think the good outweighed the bad for the show, going in pretty clean without any knowledge of the canon. But I think season 2 might take it right down the drain based on what.
And when I brought up other YouTubers, you were one of them, Gary, I was alluding to. But yeah, I think Razor Fist has also been covering it too, it looks like here. So
Razor Fist got me into Elric. Elric is amazing.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you also see what kind of ripoff The Witcher is relative to Elric.
And they cannot adapt Elric. Not today. Unless it was a crowd-funded project or something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how it's going to be with Conan, but we'll have more information on that in due time. I'm just going to do a couple of more before we get into Lord of the Rings. Mr. Tickle Truck, he sent a super sticker of a cute little kitty or something like that, so thank you so much. Stephen Otten wonders, is there a recent TV show or movie that you haven't mentioned that you do like? I'm looking for recommendations. Gary, you got any recommendations for Stephen Otten?
I was talking about it a couple of streams ago. It's a Netflix movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I went in to tear it apart. I was going to go watch this and do a live stream just ripping it to shreds, and I ended up loving it. It's called Bright, and it's a ridiculous concept. It's basically Lord of the Rings meets Training Day. It's got Will Smith.
Yeah, that Will Smith movie. Yeah.
That one.
Loved it. I loved it. It was easy and cool. Watch it if you like that kind of thing. I like it when you're able to cross genres like that, and it kind of works. It's one of my favorite things.
I don't hate Will Smith either, like a lot of people do.
No, I don't. I just think he's an actor that's good in some stuff, and he plays Will Smith.
Pretty much.
But it worked in this.
Yeah. As far as me, I haven't seen much new lately, but I'll tell you, I caught a documentary that was fucking amazing, and I want to make the movie of the documentary someday if I could ever do it, but I doubt it'll happen. It's called The Target Shoots First, and it's actually available on YouTube, and it's about a guy who started working for Columbia House, and he videotaped like every day of his job. So it's an excellent documentary about the ins and outs of how Columbia House worked at the corporate level. It's hilarious at some points, and it's just mind-boggling. So anybody out there who remembers when we were kids, we all had like 10 Columbia House accounts, right? I'm sure you did too, Gary.
I did.
So now you actually get to see how it works, how the whole system worked. It's a very interesting documentary. It's called The Target Shoots First. I recommend it highly.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah.
I have another recommendation. I've recommended this before, but it's only one season, and you can get it like really cheap on Amazon. And if you go to like dollar stores, I think the Blu-rays are there. It's called Taboo. Stars Tom Hardy. It takes place in 1814, right after the War of 1812, and it's a guy who used to be on a slave ship for the East India Company that crashed, and he was saved by some of the slaves that he would have eventually gone and captured, and comes back. His dad died, and he inherits the company, but there's a little bit of supernatural in it, and it's pure Tom Hardy. It's so good, and it's done by Stephen DeKnight. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's got a good ending to where you'll feel satisfied at the end, even though it was supposed to get a season 2 and it never did because of Venom.
Yeah, All right, cool. And I haven't seen too many like brand new things. The last thing that I saw that like really blew my mind was Chernobyl, which is amazing. And then I have two other recommendations that you might not have heard about. One is a 2013 British mockumentary sitcom starring Warwick Davis of Star Wars fame. It's called Life's Too Short,
It's
and it's a
awesome.
Ricky Gervais production.
Yes.
And it's absolutely fantastic.
Yes. I got to watch the final episode, but yeah, the Christmas
Yeah,
special.
so yeah, that one is well worth seeing. And another one is actually a Spanish series that's been remade internationally twice. It's called Gran Hotel, and it takes place from 1905 to 1907, and it's the purest Agatha Christie style mystery murder series there is right now, other than the Poirot series starring David Suchet. If you like those, then this is where you should go next. So Grand Hotel is like 3 seasons on Netflix. You go in thinking that how the hell can this be more than like a 3-episode miniseries, but it escalates, and it's pretty awesome. So yeah, those would be my recommendations.
My only other one is a documentary because that's all I get time to listen to while I'm editing and stuff. Because otherwise, I can't really pay attention. The other one I saw was Action Park. That's on HBO Max. That one was pretty good too. That's about the water park. I can't remember where exactly it was located. I think it's New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I want to see that one. That looks hilarious. I would have liked to go.
It was
to that
hilarious and disturbing all at the same time. I listened to that while I was editing. I can't remember which video now, but it was a while back. But yeah, that's usually all I get time to really watch or listen to is documentaries anymore.
Yeah, I would have loved to go to that park. But anyway, we've gone through a few super chats. There are a few more, and we'll get to them a little bit later on. But right now, Lord of the Rings. Gary, how excited are you for Amazon's Lord of the Rings? Do share your feelings.
Initially, I was really excited. I was like, all right. I mean, Jeff Bezos started out Amazon obviously started out as a book store, and this guy would probably be into it and treat it right. That's when it was announced. Then as time went on, and now I'm just cringing. We've heard rumors, and basically I get all my information from the onering.net, and that's where I used to go 20 years ago when the Lord of the Rings were being filmed originally. These guys were getting leaks. They got information like, did you know that Arwen was going to fight in the Two Towers at the Battle of Helm's Deep? And people freaked out about that, and they ended up taking it out. I doubt they would have done that today, but they did it back then. And what they dropped this whole nudity, like there's a nudity casting call, which could be innocent, but they were kind of preparing us for a possible sexualized Lord of the Rings. Plus, I mean, as you all know, or may not, I'm assuming most of you know that Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings as English mythology because he felt like England was robbed of theirs in 1066, blah, 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 since then. And they're not going to adapt it like that. This is straight up going to be a very diverse Lord of the Rings. Now, if they still capture the spirit of Tolkien and we aren't getting into like anything sexual, I could probably live with it. I can, but I'm just cringing every day, and this could be the most colossal failure of all time. It's they've got insane money into this thing, and apparently when they started, Andre, they didn't have the rights to the Silmarillion at all. They only had the rights, and Amazon has all the rights now. They have the rights to gaming, toys, absolutely everything.
In other words, they have no excuse.
No excuse. And there's a very unique thing with this contract that the Tolkien estate has. They can't. They don't have control over actual scripts, but there's concepts that they can nix basically, and they're not supposed to contradict contractually anything from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, anything from the book, anything from The Hobbit. They're not supposed to deviate. They can't give Aragorn like 2 moms or something like that, and they can't make well, I don't think they can make Gandalf a female, but there is an out on that one, actually, that I wouldn't be surprised that they tried. But I mean, just everything we've seen, even with The Witcher, even with like Westworld, we saw what happened season 2. We see this shift in Hollywood towards intersectionality, and I think we're probably going to get an intersectional Lord of the Rings, which is exactly what Tolkien would not want, or Christopher Tolkien. And unfortunately, I think his passing really affected the show, and things did start changing after he passed. And I don't know how his heirs feel about that, and they still have control. But we know how when the generations go on, they don't feel as adamant as they did, as J.R. Tolkien did or Christopher Tolkien did. So I want it to be great. I want it to be the best thing ever made. But I mean, conceptually, it sounds kind of cool, but I think we're going to get a female-centric intersectional Lord of the Rings. I don't know. How do you feel about that in the chat? I don't feel too great about it personally.
I want some full, barely legal Smeagol. Outside of that, no.
Barely legal.
I can deal with that. No, go ahead, Gary or Andre. I mean, I
was like thinking that. Well, then I'm sure you're looking forward to the full frontal Hobbit nudity scenes. Seem to be going for, just based on what we heard of Amazon's direction following the hiring of Jennifer Salk, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they were going for a female-centric intersectional direction. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because I don't know too much about their plans, but I only have like one real slice of a case study, and that's the Conan the Barbarian series that Ryan Condal was developing, and that was even greenlit for 2 seasons until they took it back again when what's her name again? Anyway, when the woman currently running the show came in, and she nixed Conan right away. She ignored that and focused instead on Wheel of Time, specifically because that was female-centric. I'm not too familiar with Jordan's Wheel of Time. Maybe the story is, maybe it isn't, but the implication is that it's going to be a whole lot more female-centric in Amazon's interpretation than it ever was before. And just following on from that, I would not be surprised if it came a mandate that Lord of the Rings also has to be female-centric and preferably intersectional. I don't think that it came from Jeff Bezos, but I do think it came from the woman running the show. That's just my reading of the situation. What do you think of that, Gary? Does that sound like I'm way off, or could there be something to that?
The and I'm forgetting her name too, but the one who nixed Conan is the one who signed the Lord of the Rings deal. Then she got fired. She's 3 people.
She's gone too now.
Yeah, they've gone through a couple of people since then.
Well, was that when we heard that the production had shut down before, Gary, and that the show might not come back, or when did this happen?
This was long before the show went into production. I think she's been gone for a little while now. The one who signed that deal. I don't know why she was gone. Maybe because she nixed freaking Conan. Sounded great. I was so excited about that.
That's right. She was gone before.
She got rid of it. Too masculine, by the way.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for Netflix.
They've shot for Conan, hell yeah. But they've shot a bunch of the Lord of the Rings finally now. It was pretty much, it dominated all the production in New Zealand, and this is just a test pilot they're shooting, so we're not going to see that whatever they're shooting right now. And they're going to be in the second age, which is thousands of years, and we're going to follow pretty much Sauron and Galadriel. Galadriel's going to be, I believe, the lead, or at least one of the leads. It's going to be a multi-character story like Game of Thrones. And so, I mean, you could have a female and a male lead, and it'd be great. If it's egalitarian, awesome, brilliant. That's what I want. I don't think we'll get that though. But if we see Sauron and the forging of the rings, and the whole, because that takes place over a long period of time. And they might, I don't know how they're going to do this. Maybe they'll do it anthology like each season will be in I don't want to say a different era within the age. So I don't think it'll be like each season will be a year apart. I don't think they'll be doing that. But it's signed on for 5 seasons, and I believe it's 10 episodes a season. And they initially paid $500 million or to get the rights, and they're putting more into it. And there's the pilot's supposed to have giant water tanks, so it sounds like there was the destruction of Numenor, and that was like Atlantis in Lord of the Rings, and they might show that. So I mean, it's going to be expensive and pretty, and it's ambitious. The guy running the show is the guy who directed the last Jurassic Park movie, the one that nobody liked. But people seem to be excited for what this guy could do in television, and maybe he's better fit for it. I don't know.
But will there be boob armor?
You know what? Probably not now. Intersectionality will not allow booby armor.
Yeah. So big-chested women, you are shit out of luck.
Isn't that funny though? How the new form of these big series, we basically get the same amount of episodes we would get in one season, but over 5 years, right? It's crazy, and like, or even 2 seasons, I guess, maybe in some cases. But like, it's just insane that we have this situation now where, we've got things like Lord of the Rings coming. We've got, all these big things, but are they going to be too big to be able to make any money back? Because I mean, that's what we keep seeing with Discovery and Picard and all these shows where they cost so much money. I mean, how big does Lord of the Rings have to be? And doing this whole, like, if they are going to go completely woke with it, aren't they going to just kill their audience? I mean, isn't that what happened to Westworld, Gary? I mean, I remember you detoured me from the second season of that.
Yeah, Westworld was on the trajectory to be the Game of Thrones replacement. I mean, I'll stand by. The first season was great, and if it just ended with that first season as kind of like a big long Twilight Zone, it would have been perfect. But then Lisa Joy kind of took the lead because the Time's Up era, and it's a Bad Robot production, and we all know the story after that. It just went completely south. Anti-man as anti-man can get. They had a character kill his daughter on Father's Day. So I mean, it's people just get turned off by that when it's just over and over again. So it's still it still has a big audience, but not the audience it could have had, So it gets like 1 million people watching it live. That's decent for HBO, but it could have had 10 million if they would have really just stayed on the trajectory they were at. And that's a great question, Tom. And I think the answer is we're going to see the end of genre pretty soon if the money keeps drying up, because I'll never forget, I was listening to the great Bruce Campbell at the Castro Theater in San Francisco. We watched Evil Dead 2, and then he answered questions. It was brilliant, by the way. And we talked about superhero films, where somebody asked him a question about Spider-Man. Then they asked, hey, would you ever do like a Marvel superhero film? And he's like, no, I'm so sick of those things. And he's all, I'll tell you what, every producer in Hollywood is waiting for this trend to end, because these things are expensive. And the minute something comes along that's cheaper, they will abandon it. And I think that time might be coming, as far as, genre being king, because the stuff we love, fantasy, superheroes, essentially the same thing. It's really expensive.
Right.
And I don't think it's sustainable. So I think you're right, Tom. I don't know CBS's logic. I've been trying to rack my brain on like why they keep going on with this Star Trek thing. And maybe it is funded by Netflix, or maybe
it is. Well, at least Discovery is for the first few seasons. Because that's the thing, you just said it. Like all these big shows, and that was the next point I was going to get to, is I know part of it's because the creators are like, well, I'm not going to do this unless you sign on for X amount of seasons. And like everything we hear now that's announced for any kind of streaming service automatically gets 2, 3, 4, or 5 seasons, just like that. Like that new Fresh Prince show got 2 seasons. What was the show I just heard about yesterday? Got 3-season announcement. I can't remember, but like you said, Lord of the Rings got 2 seasons. We initially heard that I think STD got 4 or 5 seasons from Netflix. So I mean, this is like the new norm. It's weird because it used to be you'd get a show, you'd be lucky to get half a season before they decided to renew the show for the first season, let alone the second season sometimes, at least in old TV. So it's really strange. But I mean, again, if you're going to invest this kind of money in it, makes complete sense. I'm sure Andre may have something to say to that point, but
I honestly don't even know what they're thinking and what kind of like shit deal Netflix signed with that to be screwed so, because like it's a series that doesn't make any kind of money for them. And again, it's like what it does do though is that it shows just how Bad Robot and their Section 31 wing secret hideout really are. And the thoughts of Bad Robot now doing not only Lord of the Rings, but also Justice League Dark, where they'll be tampering with Constantine. That has me worried. That has me really worried.
well, I'm sure you're at least probably happy that you heard the news that at least one of the actors from the original Constantine has confirmed there has been some movement on the Keanu Reeves version sequel, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
No, I'm not happy about that at all.
Oh, you're not?
I want real Constantine. That wasn't Keanu Reeves. I like that movie fine for what it was, but I
that wasn't Constantine.
That.
That was
It's most certainly wasn't. No, if anything, that was closer to Harry Damour by Clive Barker than it was John Constantine. That's or John Constantine.
I was saying it with more sarcasm because we still got to finish that damn mini documentary.
Yeah, I know. We're just waiting for some more news to drop about, so we're not like outdated the moment it's dropped. How embarrassing would it be if we dropped our Constantine retrospective and then like news broke the week after?
I love this. I like the Keanu Reeves movie too for what it was, but it's not Hellblazer. It's not John Constantine, and I thought Matt Ryan was pretty decent in the NBC series in that first season. I thought it could have been something interesting. I don't know why they put it on NBC. That was so bizarre.
Yeah, that was insane. And they had the completely wrong guy writing it. In what's his name again? He also wrote like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Plus, he wrote the draft on him. David Goyer.
I was going to say Demonic Toys Goyer.
Yeah,
that's one. He was completely wrong choice for it. Although Matt Ryan is good. But now we'll be getting 2 more Constantine actors, which should be exciting, because we'll be getting one Constantine for the Sandman series on Netflix. We don't know who it is, but he has been cast. I have a guess, but that's just a guess. And then there's going to be a different Constantine altogether on HBO Max on the Justice League Dark series by Bad Robot.
Oh, by Jar Jar Abrams.
Yes,
I forgot about the third one that's already established in the NBC series, which they brought over.
But he's still going to be like in the CW verse.
That's what I'm saying. So there technically will be 3, is what
there will be 3 Constantines. That's exactly right. There will be 3 of them.
Of him. I'm not.
And if we get the Keanu run, it'll be 4.
Then it'll be 4.
You were saying, Gary? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I say I have a Matt Ryan 1/6 scale. I'm not ashamed. I'm a huge Constantine fan, so
yeah,
love that book.
Yeah. Did you hear the Sandman audio play?
I did. It was pretty good. I thought it was a little overproduced, personally, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
absolutely. It made some changes, and but I thought overall, I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun with that. So I'm excited to see the Netflix series and what they're going to do with that. Neil Gaiman is involved, and he was involved with Good Omens. So there's that. Oh, speaking of that, are you familiar with Discworld?
A little bit, yeah. I've become familiar through streams, and I saw what happened on Sippy. That horrible adaptation. What's it called again? The Watch or something?
Yeah, The Watch.
Yeah.
Because we did like a video on that a while back when in conjunction with New York Comic Con when we first saw like a trailer from it that they're going to go a completely cyberpunk direction. Wonder just what do you feel about that?
It's terrible. I mean, like even didn't his daughter get pissed off about it too? They need to stop thinking they know better than the source material. But it's a great example. It's a perfect example of how they jack these things up, and these are adaptations, but the people who I think Hollywood is just watered down right now. I think it's watered down with they're trying too hard to get too inclusive as far as writing is concerned too quickly, and there's not enough writers with actual life experience, and it's going to take time for them to well, and part of it is losing their farm system, losing the independent film, and losing any small production. And without that, you don't cultivate talent. It's the same for sports. You need to constantly be bringing in that new talent, and it doesn't matter what they look like as long as they're good. But they seem to be focusing more on body parts and skin color than actual talent, and that's why we get decisions like this. The I think it's the VP or the, and this has nothing to do with sci-fi, but one of the heads of marketing, one of the shot callers at Warner Brothers. I'm not going to say her name. I don't want to single her out, but you can find her on LinkedIn. Young Ripa pointed me this direction. It was a 25-year-old girl fresh out of university calling all the shots for marketing, and I'm like, huge decisions need to be made from somebody who, especially Warner, which is leaning towards genre right now, doesn't know shit. Excuse my language, but I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe she's somebody's granddaughter or daughter, and the nepotism still runs pretty deep in Hollywood, and that's largely what's behind all these horrible decisions. It's just inexperience, and the echo chamber, of course. But yeah, I feel terrible for the Discworld fans. It's a bizarre concept, I got to admit.
Well, and we've seen this entire flip in Hollywood to where it's like, it used to be the sequels and the comic book movies and things like that sort were seen as kind of like, the dirty little, we do them because they make money, but we don't really like to do them. That's why we only got Superman. And then when Supergirl and Superman 4 kind of killed things off, it was kind of surprising to see Batman and Dick Tracy and a few other comic book movies in that little kind of bubble we had in the 90s there. But again, it's like they don't normally even remakes used to be kind of like taboo. When they used to do a remake, generally they changed the name. They would try to hide that it was a remake. Nowadays, that's their whole thing, is the franchise comes first, the remake comes first, whatever. Is it a IP that we can sell? Is it something we know? So they just to quote Doomcock, they're a bunch of cultural locusts. They take all these things like Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, what have you, and they just suck them up and they spat them out into this like non-fucking just clump of whatever crap, they try to mix with their fucking agenda. And it's just getting sickening. And I mean, I would love to get back to the times when they used to be afraid to make Friday the 13th Part 5. When they were embarrassed about it. It's like, you should be embarrassed about it. That's the point. It's fucking lazy. That's why they were embarrassed about it. Do something original, do something new, do something fresh. We want the next new thing. We don't want another of those. We already got one. We don't need more. Exactly.
No, we get these one-offs. I hate to sound like the old man, get off my lawn, but you would get Big Trouble in Little China in a year that was just insane with good movies, and it was never meant to really have a sequel. It was just one film. That's it. We need to, and it was original and bizarre and fun, and we need that, and that would help possibly resurrect the movie star, which is dying. And that's a big problem for Hollywood, and they're not addressing these issues. It's because everything is so producer driven now. And like you said, it's so franchise driven. So we can use it as a platform to help make the world a better place. It's, again, I highly recommend Silicon Valley.
I got to check that out. Yeah.
It's a great show, but particularly the first season really gives you an insight of kind of what Hollywood's trying to do right now. And it's just a season. It's a parody of Silicon Valley, but it's incredibly accurate, and it's a bunch of coders trying to justify their existence by, we're making the world a better place by creating an app that helps you find the best boobs in a city or something like that.
No, and ever since you said Mike Judge is involved, it's on my list of things I gotta get to. Like, he is one of my top people. Speaking of which, I'm wearing that Beavis shirt from the Crowder shirt. So today, speaking of. But no, like, and Ivan brings up a great point. Here's another problem besides, the death of the movie stars, that there's 23 producers to make a Star Trek Discovery episode. That's just people collecting money and not really doing anything. I mean, you and I both know that the old term executive producer, what that means that person did a whole lot of nothing and they're collecting a check, basically.
Yeah, they either financed it or it's a favor.
Or they did a phone call.
Yeah. Or they want their, yeah, exactly. Or they want their name on it. I mean, remember Steven Spielberg executive produced a lot of films in the 80s. And yeah, you threw his name on something, it was money for sure. And it depends on, some movies he had a lot to do with and some he had none.
Yeah.
Poltergeist. Yeah.
No, and I think it's another thing we keep going back to is like, on the other end of this, once we get past the $300 million movies they got to get through, I think we all kind of decided, or not decided, but we all kind of agree that, the one big thing that's got to change is the movie stars' salary. Like, they cannot be giving out the 30, 40, 50, $60 million paydays anymore.
No.
Until the movie star makes a comeback. I mean, we need the days of Sylvester Stallone, Schwarzenegger, the guys who actually sold the movie. Like you were saying before, it didn't fucking matter what the movie was about. I'm going to see a Schwarzenegger movie. That's all I give a shit about. That those days are done. You even brought up Will Smith earlier, and I think Willie B. Mayer said that, and he's correct. He's the last of the movie stars. I don't think that we've really had one since that has been able to, and even he's done for now too. So,
yeah, there's no. I mean, you have to think long and hard to try to, like, who will bring me to the movie theater automatically? I mean, a director or movie star, and I don't think it's anybody. It probably would have been Robert Downey Jr., but the two movies he did outside one I saw, one I didn't, but one didn't interest me. And I would think he would be, but it's only as Iron Man. It's not outside. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Tarantino, Scorsese, those are the only two directors that I know of offhand where I will jump to go see one of their movies. But outside of that, no. I'm even hard pressed to think of an actor anymore that I'm really like, I'll wait for video, So, Andre, are you still with us? No, he had to step away for a second.
Yeah, that's okay.
But the other thing, though, that is interesting about this is the bailout part again. To jump back to that, I'm really curious how you think theaters are going to fare after this, because I mean, we all pretty much think they're done. But do you think there is a future at all for theaters, Gary, going forward? I know you're usually asking us this question, but I'm curious what you think.
I don't think so. I think we'll have the mom and pop theater, and it'll. I was thinking this before the coup happened. I was walking into the Century 20. It's in Daly City. It's pretty close to my house, and it's a giant movie theater, 3 levels, 20 theaters. It had a concession stand on the second level that they stopped manning a few years back. And I'm like, how is this sustainable? Even now, like, prior to the coup, it only had like 5 or 6 people working in there. And they shut down the concession stand upstairs. So you already saw the writing on the wall anyway, and they were making such little money. No, if they come back, it'll be like an Alamo Draft House situation. You'll have to have other amenities. It'll have to be very comfortable, and you have to make it a true experience. You can't just funnel people in and expect them to, sit on top of each other. It's going to take a long time for some people to feel comfortable sitting next to another human being because they're scared to death of this thing. And I just don't think they can wait it out 2 years with or without a bailout. And that's why I was very much against the bailout, because the reason the studios, if they felt like the movie theaters were a good investment, they would save them themselves because it's in their best interest. And they laughed at it when it was brought up to them. So that tells you how good of a bet that is. But it's fine because we'll pay for it. No problem. We'll just make some more money, take it from the taxpayer who's not working right now. And because most people in Hollywood, I do believe, are fundamentally stupid, and they don't understand like how this economy runs. It's on the small business. They employ the most people, they generate the most taxes, and they keep this a very expensive state running. And Hollywood still resides in California. I think the whole thing might change. depending on how long it goes. I mean, if everything comes back in March, full steam ahead, sure, I think movie theaters can survive.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point too, because like before this, I'm like, no, I think they're fine, and then the longer this goes and the less theaters show any or studios show any interest in the theaters, then I think that's done for. Andre, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
So let's hit up those super chats and wrap this up. 'Cause I'm sure Gary has a lot of important things to do besides hang out with us.
Absolutely.
Like
So let's rush through some super chats, shall we? We got 2 back-to-back from Polaris Sucks, who said first, Gary, please get Andre and that other guy on your site. And he followed up with, of course, Tom too, but he's also on Friday Night Heights anyway. Yeah, I'd love to be on, given availability and time zone cooperation. That's like the big thing, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how it affects you. That's why we started earlier, starting at 2-ish, so we can get more of the Euros on. Yeah. And I don't know what time that would be for you. I don't know how different it is from 2.
Right now it's 7:30 p.m. in my time, but I'd love to be better
for him to be in an earlier time slot. Yeah, and then
we can make it happen.
I'm sure we could.
Yeah. And moving on from
but Rob, on the other hand, that's the other person you're talking about. Hopefully Rob's feeling better. I did talk to him earlier this morning. I know he was feeling under the weather. So
yeah, we wish Rob all the best and speedy recovery and nothing serious. So yeah. And moving on with the super chats, Stargate 404, responding to what we said earlier, says, "No, don't touch my Stargate." And he also followed that up with, "I swear, if Bad Robot puts their oily hands on it." And just to contrast, Miss Martin Muse sent us a rosy super sticker. Thank you so much. William Sova says, "Andre, Tom, and Gary, please listen to me. Just ignore Sarcation. She's a professional victim and agitator for all the wrong people. Also, maybe Razor Fist." I guess this is Boopgate referring to. Yeah, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I am not making a video on the subject, but I'll certainly talk about it in live streams because we're going
to. That's what we did. We had the Critical Drinker on to discuss it live. So,
I have a good feeling the ladies will talk about it tonight too.
Yeah, so. do check out Toxic Femininity tonight. That should be a hoot. And while you wait for that, check out. Yeah, there you go. And also check out our Star Wars The Mandalorian Episode 3 review, where we had the Critical Drinker on, although most of the time was spent discussing Poopgate and how fun that was. Moving on, Tonrister Tree says, "Is Kubrick safe from the dreaded universe?"
They touch my Kubrick, and I will break fingers.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Question, but will that make him safe? I think so. Because I don't think there's anything genre enough that they want to do anything other than the Shining sequel, which only worked out so well for them, did it?
It was pretty good, actually. That was one of the few things I'll say that didn't really tread on the OG that much.
Although I would say I would absolutely welcome a new interpretation of 2001: A Space Odyssey and its sequels written by Arthur C. Clarke. So I wouldn't mind an Arthur C. Clarke adaptation, although I realized that the movie started that the book and the movie were developed simultaneously, but we never got like the proper sequels. In my book, 2010, the year we make contact, the movie doesn't count. And I wouldn't mind seeing the rest of those movies adapted on film, but that's just me.
An angry panda living up to his name says, "Tom, break heads, not fingers are never enough."
Yeah, good point there.
Yeah, don't mess with Kubrick.
And Azrael 213 says, "Nobody wants a woke Stargate spin-off. Bury the gate before they can establish a stable wormhole people. Double time."
Well, I don't know much about Stargate, but don't they have a pretty good structure behind the scenes as far as people involved already? Like, because I mean, there's been like that web series and stuff like that recently, and some other things. I have a feeling that's the thing, is it sounds like the people who own that have a lot of control over it from what I gathered from the meeting.
As long as Bad Robot doesn't get involved.
Yeah, as long as Bad Robot doesn't get involved. If Bad Robot gets involved, all debts are out. Then we're done. We're done.
That's the one thing we didn't mention about Lord of the Rings is there might be some Bad Robot involvement. Well, there already is a lot of Bad Robot people in production on that crew.
In other words, abandon all hope.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not big Lord of the Rings fans, because then that series would be hurting. I can say I have no anticipation for it, but that's
How
just
do you
me.
get so much lens flare in Lord of the Rings? That's going to be my first response, I bet.
I just wonder when people are going to figure out that Jar Jar Abrams is not talented. He's very good at the politics of Hollywood.
I will say there's somebody, I'm not going to mention his name because it was a private conversation, but they were going off about how untalented and a hack J.J. Abrams are.
Oh yeah,
last night
after the show, I'll tell you who was going off on Kurtzman and Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Someday I would love to be able to tell y'all, but I can't right now. Someday.
Brilliant.
Yes, we'd love to tell you all a lot of things, but confidence is something that's key in our business, folks. So
yeah, and if we shared absolutely everything, we would no longer be told anything. So yeah, there's that. And moving on, the Sardos for $20, thank you so much, says, please keep up the good work. If we stop speaking the truth, the liars will win. Truer words were never spoken. And Mr. Tickletrunk has some great words for you all. If you're new here, follow the channel. These guys give a great talk, have a lot of insider info, as well as really great guests, such as Gary today. We're very glad to have on the channel.
Cheers.
And 200 Watt Studio says, Wall Street and Hollywood backed Biden for a reason. $ in parentheses. Absolutely. And Corey B says, Amazon Lord of the Rings news has me think they're going to go full Disney Star Wars and do a headfirst dive into a 1 billion dumpster fire of intersectional woke idiots. Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it?
It does. And the one concerning thing was OneRing.net was pointing out that they just haven't reached out to the fandom at all. And of all the fandoms, and this is what I don't want to see, the Lord of the Rings fans have, if you're just a fan of that, have been free of this intersectional woke divisiveness. It
creeped into the Hobbit just a tad, but not too bad.
It did. But they haven't had to deal with it in like the last 4 years. And that's what's coming. And that's why I made my video. It's like, get ready for a split in your fandom, because they're going to do some political allegory. And if they do that, that's the first sin against Tolkien, who hates allegory in all of its form. I think it's just going to be Jeff Bezos's Lord of the Rings. And he wants Game of Thrones. That's specifically what he said. Get me a Game of Thrones.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And he should know that Game of Thrones is not Lord of the Rings. And I know I'm speaking to every nerd's heart when I say that. So I hope he understands it. I hope everybody behind it understands it. And if anybody's listening who's behind it, do understand that, because it's not. And you should know that already. And shame on you if you try to turn it into Game of Thrones, because that's just bullshit.
Well, I like what Tom Shippey said. He was throwing tons of shade on it. Tom Shippey's the Tolkienologist, and he was there's a speech on YouTube where he's throwing shade at A Song of Ice and Fire. And he's like, I don't like any of these characters. I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with any of these people, and it's for Tom Shippey to say that I was like, oh, damn. But as hard as it gets, but that's him basically cussing it out. And it's true. A Song of Ice and Fire works because the Lord of the Rings exists in my world. So it's a different look at it. And it does interesting things. They talk about economies and, armor and, and it doesn't glorify war. And George R. Martin and Michael Moorcock both kind of think Tolkien Now, George R. Martin hasn't said this out loud. He has reverence for Tolkien, but Michael Moorcock called him a fascist. So, and all Tolkien wanted to write was something innocent, and it got less innocent as time went on as he was writing like the unfinished stuff. But it's not supposed to be sexual. It's not supposed to be intersectional. It's written by a devout Catholic, and these are all things that contradict each other. And we see it, we've seen the death of Marvel Comics and DC Comics because intersectionalism and identity politics it's a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't fit with heroism because they fundamentally do not like heroism. That is a tool of the patriarchy and it is evil. Well, then how are you going to make comic books? I don't know how it works. And it doesn't.
Yeah, indeed. And speaking of evil, CJs sends us $20. Thank you so much, with a very important message. Recall Gavin Newsom, California. We need a signature. Thanks. By the way, keep up the good work. You guys rock. Oh, thank you. And good luck with that. And Cedric Taylor 08 says, Nerdrotic, are they DC Comics kill the bisexual comic books?
Have they killed the or become it?
It literally says Nerdrotic, are they DC Comics kill the bisexual comic books? I guess what he means is, are DC Comics going to kill like the bisexual comic books, and like are they going to go less woke now that they're going broke? I think that's what he's asking.
Maybe. Okay. So they're going to kill. Well, 5G is still coming out, but by all accounts, they're going to have a skeleton crew at DC, and they're only going to be producing Superman, Batman, Flash, Justice League, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman stories. So will they go back to more traditional storytelling? If they want to make money, they better, or it's over. And,
do you think that we'll be getting the sequel to the Three Jokers, or is that done for two?
I think everything's done for right now. According to Ethan, Ethan Van Sciver has been covering this pretty well, and obviously he has lots of ties to DC since he spent most of his career there. And he said that all the artists and writers are rushing to finish their work so they can turn it in and get paid, knowing that the vast majority will not see the light of day. So I think they're shutting everything down.
In other words, don't hold our breaths for either Joker War in Batman or the Three Jokers follow-up.
No, if Tom King gets fired from DC or leaves, then you can have hope. As long as he's there, abandon it. Because apparently that guy's got a lot of juice, and he is duplicitous as hell. He's a backstabber, and this is from very good sources.
Yeah, the former CIA man certainly comes across that way. And moving on, Blue Marvel says Stargate is the last franchise left standing. I will see for how long. And Finbar Hooley says, Andre and Tom, have either you been on EFAP? If not, it would be awesome to see you on a panel. You guys are awesome. Oh, thank you. I've not been to EFAP. Have you, Tom? Tom is not there.
No,
but
I have not been to EFAP yet, and I don't know Mahler that well. I've only met him a couple times, so I think you and Mahler have only talked like once or maybe twice, Andre. So
yeah, I think.
No,
so.
I mean, sure, if we get an invitation, we'd be glad to be there. So
yeah, hasn't happened yet, but should the invitation come, I'll absolutely be there. And Jarsan Riv sent us 20 Mexican dollars. Thank you so much. Saying Nerdrotic in Midnight's Edge in the morning. Hail. And Filmlash sent us 100 Danish krona. Oh, tusen takk. And he says, hail, good people. I've had a great meeting with a production company here in Copenhagen today, so now I'm drunk. Cheers. Well, skål, my Danish friend, and good luck with that. The Danish make some awesome productions. On that note, I actually have another recommendations. If you can find it, there's a Danish series called Klovn. It's freaking awesome. Go watch it. And
pronounce that. What's it called?
Klovn. It's clown, but with a V. There's like a couple of movies as well that I do believe have been released stateside, but the series that the movies are a follow-up to is so much better. Basically, it's a Danish remake of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But if you thought Curb Your Enthusiasm was painful to watch, you ain't seen nothing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so highly recommend that. And moving on from that, Spasras 1386 says, I went to Action Park when I was a kid. Nothing like getting onto a slide and smelling the alcohol coming off your lifeguard. Haha, Tarzan swing. That sounds awesome. I would have loved to gone there. Larry says, great discussion with 3 great people. More, please. Oh, well, you'll get more. 3 days a week. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. LA time. So be sure to check us out. And Matt G sends us $5 saying, I'd like to nominate Gary for a moderator wrench in appreciation for his fandom menace leadership. Honorary participation gift. Sure, that can be arranged. And Stephen Otten also sent us $5 saying, thanks for the recommendations. I liked Brighton Taboo as well. Check out Into the Badlands. Great characters and action. All 3 seasons are on Netflix. Well, I'll put it on the list. And my countryman, Paul from Norway, for 100 Norwegian krona, thank you so much, says, theories on Kevin Smith woke He-Man FS. I hope that the Kevin Smith series is going to be awesome. I really hope it will be, because it's the only valid He-Man project that we're going to be getting for a long time, other than the children's 3D animation.
I mean, I don't like how he went after Clownfish and them, but I will give him the credit that of all the things that, people come after us and accuse us all of like peddling fake news and whatnot. But how hard is it for any of these people to come out on Twitter, whatever, and say, look, it's not true, or this is not true, or whatever? They don't, because they either can't or what have you. So I hope that what Kevin did, despite not being happy about it and the way he handled it, is a sign that the show is paying homage to the original He-Man more so, and the whole, factor of Tila being the central character is just kind of a much to do about nothing that we're making a big fuss
about. I hope so. I absolutely believe that she's going to have a bigger part. But again, it's the execution, and really, it's Evelyn and Skeletor and their dynamic, which was the interesting all the time. I mean, really, He-Man was never the cool part about He-Man, was he? And 200 Watt Studio says Gran Hotel, which was one of my recommendations. Original Spanish version with subtitles is fantastic. It is crazy with twists and turns, but very satisfying. It is indeed, so I recommend it. And sent us a super sticker of a diamond. Thank you so much. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says just wanted to hear Andre. So yeah, there you go. And Blue Satoshi says, Tom King brings this quote to mind. The CIA, they glow in the dark. You can't see them when you're driving. You just run them over. That's what you do. And with that, I do believe that we are caught up.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We are indeed. And with that, I would like to thank every single one for watching us.
This is actually a record for our morning show, and I want to thank Gary. I think you were a big part of that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, Gary, you're welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you on anytime you have the time and opportunity to come join us this early in the morning. It's been an absolute blast to have you. And the days when Gary is not on, we have some other very cool guests that come and join us. We've had the likes of Kamran Pasha last week. We had Gary J. Tonicliffe the week before that. And we have the Critical Drinker and some other cool YouTubers lined up. So do check us out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. LA time. That's 6 p.m. Central European time. And we'd love for you to make us part of your day. So do hit that like and subscribe. With that, Gary, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Where can people find you? I'm sure people know already, but let them know anyway.
I'll get the link in the chat.
Oh, I have a channel. I have 3 now. I got to talk to Perry Chan, but I'm launching Nerdrotic Daily, which is going to be clips from live streams and daily content starting today or tomorrow, and working on a video, working on Picard. Not close to being done yet, though.
Yes, and in about
Awesome.
15 minutes or so, stay tuned. I just dropped the link besides Gary's link. If you haven't already subscribed to Nerdrotic, please do. But we're going to be talking to filmmaker Adam Marcus in just a little bit here, not even like 10, 20 minutes from now, probably live here on the same channel, just different stream. So head on over there. We're going to talk to him about his new documentary about the making of Jason Goes to Hell. So join us there. All right. Anything else you want to say, Gary or Andre, before we call it a day here on Midnight's Edge in the Morning?
Everybody be good to each other.
There you go. Andre?
Indeed. Stay safe. So yeah, be sure to join us again in 10 minutes for talking with the filmmaker behind Jason Goes to Hell, and later this evening again for Toxic Femininity. With that, thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day.